Welcome to Missing in Ohio, a podcast devoted to telling the stories of Ohio's missing loved ones. I am your host, Kelly Hammonds, and this is Chapter 2, The Disappearance of Rosemary Rapp. Rosemary Rapp is a missing adult from Salineville, Ohio. Rosemary was last seen on June 10, 2016. In the past 2 years, Rosemary's daughter, Stacy, has done everything in her power to get answers, but all she seems to find is another false story. Today, Stacy will join me and share the story of her mom, Rosemary Rapp's disappearance. Okay, Stacy, let's start by telling the listeners a little bit about your mom.
She was 68 when she came up missing on June 10th, 2016. She was an avid animal lover. She would take care of any animal. It didn't matter what it was. I remember her taking in 3 baby coons because the mom got killed. Cats, dogs. I mean, she had no problem with any animal. It didn't matter. What I liked the most about my mom was no matter how many brothers and sisters she had or how many family members she had, she always made sure that they had something for their birthday and every Christmas. It didn't matter how many, and it was in the family. She made sure that everybody knew she cared about them. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about my mom, was that she cared about everybody. No matter who it was or what they had ever done to her, she cared, and she showed it a lot. So the main thing that she did for hobbies is she liked flowers. She wasn't real good at keeping the flowers alive, but she liked doing flowers and working outside and, with flowers and whatnot. So,
How many siblings did Rosemary have?
She had, I think she was the one of 8. So, she had quite a brothers and sisters. Several had passed before she came up missing. So, there wasn't many of them left, but I think there was like 2 brothers left and 3 sisters left out of all of them when she came up missing.
And Rosemary had 2 children, correct?
Yeah, I have one brother with my mom. I have several other brothers and sisters, half brothers and sisters, but there was just me and my brother Anthony, and he's 1 year younger than me. So,
Tell me about your relationship with your mom.
When I was young, 8 years old, my parents had split up when I was 2. And my brother was 1 year old. So when I was 8, I went to live with my father and my mom. My brother stayed with my mom. And something is a long story, but my father kept me away from my mother. So I didn't get to see my mom from age 8 to 17. I only got to see her for a handful of times. There was a funeral or something of that such nature, he would allow me to go see my mom. So I really didn't have a relationship with my mom growing up. Now my brother did, obviously, because he stayed with her. They were pretty close, and he benefited from being with my mom growing up, unlike I did. So, but once I was grown, we tried to make up for a lot of lost time. It wasn't none to do with my mom's fault. It was my father's fault that I didn't grow up with my mom. But as an adult, we tried to make up for a lot of the time that was missed when I was young.
Did Rosemary ever remarry?
Yeah, she got remarried to Terrence, which was her husband when she came up missing. What it was when I was young, my babysitter introduced my mother to Terrence, and I was like 4, and my brother was 3, and she introduced them, and they got together and was together ever since.
And what kind of relationship did Rosemary and Terrence have?
Well, to be honest with you, it was the type of marriage that I could see from what I've seen. It was the type of marriage that I would want to have, to be honest. Everything that my mom ever needed or wanted, he made sure she had. My mom never wanted for anything. Terry worked on the road. He would be gone for 4 months, home for a couple months, and then back on the road again. And it seemed to work for them. It seemed to really be, a really good marriage, something that I would want my marriage to be like, to be honest.
What was your relationship like with Terry?
Terry was, in all honesty, in my eyes, my father. I considered Terry my father. I mean, I called him Dad, and he was the only man that I ever trusted totally in my life. I can't say it any better than that. He was just the father figure that I needed, and he was always there. If there was anything going on, he always seemed to be there and supportive and stood beside me as a father would.
Can you tell the listeners a little about your mom's life leading up to her disappearance?
My mother, leading up to her disappearance, she had knee surgery, back surgery, and neck surgery. She was unable to walk without a walker. If she tried to walk on her own, she would fall. There was no walking without a walker, and she also had a wheelchair to get around in the wheelchair or the walker. She was unable to do it on her own. She had to have help. There was a lot of things that I know now that I didn't know then. Some people put a face on in front of other people and don't tell them what exactly goes on behind closed doors. And I wish I knew then what I know now. But according to what my mom was showing, everything seemed to be fine besides the surgeries and her knee bothering her after the surgery. And she would have, family out for Memorial Day. She had family out. She would try really hard to be happy, and I don't know. It's hard to describe because what hinders me now is what I know now. So it's hard to say how things were before she came up missing because of everything so different. I really don't know how to say it for lack of better words. It's just there was more than the eye could see going on.
Can you tell us what you found out about your mom's activities on the day she disappeared?
Well, see, that's where everything starts getting rocky because I got a phone call from a family member saying that my mom was missing. I called Terrence to ask him what was going on. I mean, obviously he's right there in the same household with my mom. He would know what's going on, why they're saying my mom's missing. So I called him, and I was told one story, and then when I talked to the police department, I was told a different story. So there were several different stories that pertain to that day. And but I was told from Terrence, which we also call Terry, he told me that he had got up at 5 a.m. and my mom was in her bedroom tinkering around, and he had asked her why she was up, and she said she couldn't sleep. So he went on to the restroom and then went back to bed, and when he got up at 7, he looked around for her, and she was gone. And he said that she took no shoes, no purse, no belongings. The walker was still in the home, and the wheelchair was still in the home. Now, my mom couldn't walk on her own, so I don't know how she left on her own. But that was just the first of several different stories that came from that day.
Who reported Rosemary missing, and when was she reported missing?
My mother was reported missing at 3:30 that day by Terrence. Why he waited all day long to call, that's still a mystery. But he called at 3:30 in the afternoon to report her missing when he supposedly found out she was missing at 7 a.m.
Who did Terry first tell that she was missing?
He called my aunt, Debbie, and my cousins to tell them that she was missing, and my aunt and my cousins told him that he should call the police and report her missing, and he waited a little bit longer and then finally called the police. And the only reason I know this is all factual because I have all the police reports reporting all of it. So in all the police reports that I have, it said that he talked to them first and then decided to call and report her missing.
Immediately after she was reported missing and police became involved, what kind of search was done to locate your mother?
They did a search of all the property, which is 139 acres, so there's a lot of land to cover. And they reported to me that they did cover pretty much all of the land looking for her, because the way that they were informed that she was missing is that she walked away on her own. So at this point in time, the police are being told that she walked away, so they're looking for her out, out in the woods, out in the terrain, which is their property out there. There were several people called in to do a search. So the police departments, BCI came. There were several people out there at this time looking for her because they were told that she walked away.
When I Google your mom's name and look at her flyers, it mentions she walked away, she needed medicine, and she had dementia. Is there anything you would like to say about that?
Yes, I want to be very clear about that. First of all, she did not have dementia. The police department and BCI have gotten hold of her doctors, and all the doctors have backed up, saying that she had no dementia, no early stages of dementia at all, period. I want to make that perfectly clear. There was no dementia. And second of all, she couldn't walk away because she couldn't walk without a walker or a wheelchair, and the walker and the wheelchair are accounted for. So there's no way my mom walked anywhere. And I want to make that perfectly clear. That has been proven over and over again that she could not walk away because she couldn't walk on her own. And they live at the top of the hill, and you have to go downhill, down a gravel driveway, down to the gravel roads, because all the roads back there are gravel. There's no way my mom walked anywhere.
So you get the phone call that your mom is missing. What thoughts were going through your mind?
To be honest with you, and I want to make this perfectly clear too, at first I was believing Terry because I had no reason not to. He told me that she just came up missing after seeing her in her bedroom. That was after me asking him 2 or 3 times what was going on. We were having a conversation. I had an accident. I fell off of a ladder a week before my mom came up missing. My arm was broke, and I had several breaks. And he was talking to me about falling off the ladder. He was talking about my new house. And I'm like, where's my mom? What's going on? It's my mom. I want to know what's going on. He finally tells me his story. And I wanted to come down, and he said, no, there's no reason for you to come down here as hurt as you are. There's nothing you can do. You can't search, So I had no reason not to believe Terry when he was telling me it'll be fine. She'll be back. She's done this before. She's taken off before and came back 2 or 3 days later. I've never heard nothing about her leaving for 2 or 3 days and not, and coming back. So, like I said, I was believing him. I had no reason to at this point in time.
Now that you look back on it, is it odd that Terry was talking about your injury and new house instead of Rosemary and the fact that she is missing?
Yeah, I find that very, like I said at the time, it didn't come across, but you go back and you rewind and you go over things in your mind and you catch things that you didn't catch at that point in time. And yes, it just seemed so weird to me that he wanted to talk about my broken arm. He wanted to talk about new house, but my mom's missing. You would have thought that would be the first thing out of his mouth. Your mom's missing. This is what happened. But I had to coax it out of him. So, yeah, that was pretty upsetting, now that I look back at it. Yeah.
How long were Rosemary and Terrence married?
They were married 30-something years, 32 years, and together 47.
You mentioned earlier about all the different stories about your mom's disappearance. Can you tell us who is telling these different stories?
Since my mom's been missing, Terrence or Terry, whichever you want to call him, has told 7 different stories about what happened that day. It was the story he told me about her being in her bedroom. There was a story about she was kidnapped out of the TV room. There was a story about how she come out of the house with a gun, and he was at 7 in the morning outside in the pole barn, and he asked her what she was doing. She says, I'm going to go kill myself with this gun. And she walked down the driveway and got in the car with my biological father. Well, there's a big thing there. How could she get in the car with my biological father and drive away when he had passed away 3 years before she came up missing? So there's no feasible way she could have gotten in the car with him and drove anywhere. So that was another story. Another story was that she was making coffee that morning when he got up, and he got up at 7 and she was gone. There was a story that when he called to report her missing, the gun, her walking out with the gun and getting in the car with my father was the story he told them when he called to report her missing. I have that in my police reports. And then there was the story about how she heard something on the hill behind the house, and she went out to see what was going on because she was an animal lover, and she never came back. So there's been several stories. And the way I feel about it, to be totally honest with you, Kelly, is if you have no guilt or you've not done anything wrong, why tell 7 different stories? Your story don't change if you're not guilty of something.
Did the police check to see if any of the guns they owned were missing?
Yes, they said that all guns are accounted for. I'm sorry. All his guns are accounted for. I even asked him personally what was the deal with the gun and my mom walking outside with the gun, because there was 2 different stories. There was a story that she walked out. He told a story about her walking out with the gun, and then there was a story that there was a gun found in the front yard. I talked to Captain Graham, which is the top guy on my mom's case, and he said they're both absolutely false. There was no gun found in the front yard. And obviously my mom didn't walk down the driveway with a gun and get in the car with my father. So that's a false story too.
Terry was telling all these stories to other people. Did his story ever change to you?
His story never changed to me, but he only told it to me once, because I tried to ask him several other times, can we go over this again? And the only reason I wanted to go over it again is because I wanted to see if there was something that I could catch on to, something that, we might be able to put our minds together and figure out where she went, at first, why I was still believing him. So.
You were telling me a strange story that right after your mom went missing, that Terry went missing for a little while too. Is there anything you can say about that?
Yeah, it was the next week. My mom came up missing on a Friday, and it was the next week, I believe, don't quote me, but I believe it was a Monday and a Tuesday. Terry came up missing. I kept calling and calling and calling, and there was no answer. And he wasn't calling me back. There was no answer. There was nothing. I finally got a hold of him on the 3rd day, and I asked him, I said, are you okay? What's going on? I thought something happened to you. And he's like, well, I had to get away and clear my mind. So he was missing for 2 days after my mom came up missing. You would think that you'd want to be there to answer the phone if your wife was missing. You don't leave. I'm just sorry. I don't understand why you would want to leave to clear your mind when your wife's missing. Would you want to be there if something came up or if she was found? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Did he give any explanation of where he went?
He wouldn't tell me, and nobody knew where he was. Then he disappeared another time. It was the next week after. It was like she had been gone a week in a few days, and he was missing again. And I finally got a hold of him, and after calling him for a couple of days, and he said that he went to his brother's house to work on a vehicle with his brother. Since then, the story has been found false. It has been checked into, and it was a false story.
You found out shortly after your mom went missing that her relationship with Terry was an abusive one. Is that what made you change your mind about believing Terry?
There was several different things. The first thing was BCI came to my home to get my DNA, and they wanted to have it on file. And I was talking to BCI, and we were going over the case, and BCI informed me of some things I didn't know. And one of the things was that they found letters in my mom's Bible where she was writing letters and little notes when he would abuse her and hit her and pull her hair and call her names. She would write it down and the date and then put the little notes in her Bible. Well, when they were searching her room, they found them and they took pictures of all the notes. And here to come find out, I had hired a private investigator, and he went back 3 years to find out anything that he could find out through court records and whatnot. And the cops had been called out to my mom's house on 3 different occasions for domestic violence. And come to find out, he had been hitting my mom. And that just floored me, because I never would have ever guessed that he would hit my mom, ever. And the BCI told me that Terry is not who he betrays himself to my family and me and my mother. BCI, the exact words was, Terry has been fooling this family since day one. And I wanted to elaborate on that, and they couldn't. He said he couldn't elaborate on the details of that, but that's all he could tell me at the time. So after BCI left, I looked at my boyfriend and I'm like, Terry's been lying to me since day one. I was just heartbroken, because I had no idea that this stuff was going on and my mom was being treated the way she was being treated. I had no idea.
When she first went missing, did the police have any theories that they were leaning towards?
At first, they thought she was a missing person, obviously. They did bring, the dogs out, and there was a report that her scent was lost at the end of the driveway by the dogs, and they hit on several other different things, her scent. But the best thing, I can't go into who said what, but I can tell that they're 100% sure that there was foul play. Dale Williams, which is the sheriff down in Carrollton, has gone on camera. When I did an on-camera interview about my mom, he did go on there and say that they suspect foul play, and they believe that my mom was murdered. So that's as far as I can say at this point in time.
Not long after your mom went missing, you held a vigil for her. Can you tell us about that?
July 21st, the month after she came up missing, I had a vigil, and I had let Captain Graham know that I wanted to have a vigil, and he made Terry aware that I was having the vigil, and I was told that he didn't want it on his property. So I had it at the end of the street, at the end of their driveway. Needless to say, it was very upsetting, because this is my mom's home too. And I did have a vigil, and Terry did not attend, and he was invited, and he didn't attend it, and he walked down the driveway, seen us standing there. There was a news reporter guy there with a camera. He seen us standing there, turned around and went back up to the house, shut all the doors and windows, and never did come back out for the vigil. He was very upset that I even had one. And it's very upsetting, because if you have no guilt or you didn't do anything wrong, then why didn't you come to the vigil for your own wife?
Did he ever tell you why he was upset that you had a vigil?
No, because he no longer takes my calls. I tried to call him several times right around the vigil, before and after, and no return calls, will not answer the phone. As a matter of fact, he pretty much doesn't want any of my mom's family calling. He doesn't want to be bothered with us.
That's a little strange, considering he has known you almost your whole life.
Yeah, it's very strange and very hurtful. And I'm sorry I keep saying this, but if you have no guilt, then why act that way? He's not once did a news report. He's not once offered a reward. He's been asked to do a reward. He said no. He's been asked to do lie detector tests. He's denied doing a lie detector. He has not once done anything to help try to find my mother. He didn't even help in the searches.
But he did hold a balloon release for Rosemary, right?
Oh, yes, he did. On June 13th. My mom came up missing on June 10th. On June 13th, now this is something that I didn't catch until after. But my one aunt went out there to, I guess her and her daughter had made food for Terry, because everybody at this point in time was still saying that my mom was missing. So they took food out to him, and they decided to have a barbecue, and they decided to let balloons go, and they put little messages on the balloons, and I hope you get these in heaven, and I'm glad you're in heaven now. Well, this is 3 days after my mom came up missing. You don't put balloons with messages like that on for someone that's missing.
Since you didn't speak to Terry about it, did you ever speak to your aunt as to why they did the balloon release?
Just to be honest with you, which I can't go into real detail with that either, but I no longer talk to her. There's just too many things that have gone on around that aunt with concerns to Terry, and I can't go into detail, but I no longer have anything to do with that situation. You can read between the lines on that kind of, it's like I can't give details, but I no longer have anything to do with that aunt or that cousin. I'm sorry, but you don't send off balloons to someone that's considered missing 3 days after she came up missing. And to be part of that, there's something just not right with that whole picture. And that's the best thing I can say about it.
Even though we know your mom wasn't in a state where she could just walk away, do you think even if she was in a healthy state that she would have just walked away?
There's no way he would. There's no way my mom would. I know that as well as I'm sitting here talking to you on the phone. I know for a fact my mom would not walk away from her family. My mom loved her family. She, like I said at the beginning of this interview, she made sure everybody had a birthday card. If she didn't have a gift, she had money in that birthday card. Everybody got a Christmas card. She never forgot anything about anybody. She would even go to thrifty stores and she would buy everybody in the family something if she found something that they liked. There's no way my mom would walk away from family. There's no way. I know for a fact, as well as I'm breathing, I know it. My mom would have got hold of me somehow, some way by now. She would have sent me a letter. She would have, if she didn't get a hold of anybody, she would have got a hold of me. I know she would have.
Okay.
I can't stress that enough, Kelly. I just can't stress that enough, because there's been stories out there that my mom walked away and my mom this and my mom. No, I know for a fact she didn't. She wouldn't leave her animals either.
To the best of your knowledge, has Terry ever been questioned by law enforcement?
He's been, from what I was told by the detectives, they brought him in and did one initial interview. They also go out every couple of weeks and see what Terry's up. They actually drive out there and see what Terry's up to. And the last time I talked to Captain Graham, which was 2 weeks ago, he said that he made a visit out to see Terry, and Terry not once asked, is there anything new about my mom's case? He talked about his garden, his greenhouse, and his new truck, and he talked about this and talked about, not once did he mention my mother.
It seems a little strange to me that he doesn't even ask law enforcement if they have any information on your mom's disappearance.
Exactly. So, it's, to me, in my heart, it's like he already knows, so why ask?
You mentioned Terry is an intelligent man. He even rubbed that in law enforcement's face, right?
Oh, yes, he did. They took him in for an interview, and they sat him in the room, and Captain Graham and Officer Watson walked in, and he goes, well, I'm gonna start this off. He goes, first of all, I got an IQ of 180. He said, I'm smarter than all of you. He said, so if you think you're going to win this, you're sadly mistaken. And that's how he started out the interview. And they have it all on tape. So he is very smug. He knows he's getting away with something. And I don't know what else to say about that whole situation, because right there I would have arrested him and said, okay, that's all I need to know. But then again, I'm not a cop, so, or police, or anybody to do anything like that. But that's just my thoughts on it.
How old is Terry?
My mom would be turning 71 in September. Terry's will be 71 in December.
Do you think this is something he could have done alone?
That's a tricky question, but from my standpoint, I don't think so. I think he could have initially done something to my mom alone, but I really don't think anything after that he could do alone. I really don't.
Okay.
I think there's people out there that know something, and I think that they're afraid, or it could be anything. But I think there's somebody out there that knows something. I think there's somebody out there that helped him, to be honest with you, and they know, and I think they're afraid. So, to answer your question, yes, I do believe he had help after the initial act.
Does the rest of your family believe Terry knows more as well?
Yeah, everybody in the family is all in agreement that he had something to do with my mom's being missing.
Since your mom went missing, some people haven't been willing to help. Would you like to talk about that?
The main thing, Kelly, that when I first started with my private investigator, and I started this whole crusade to find my mom, there was a lot of people going back to the stories, and I can't stress this enough. And I know you heard this before, but I've got to say it again. The stories are not true. She could not walk. She could not walk away on her own. She did not have dementia, period. And one of the things that really grasped me into reality of this whole situation was my mom was the type of person that liked jewelry. And this might not mean a lot to everybody else, but to me, I know my mom. She wore her wedding rings. She never took them off. She wore a gold bracelet. She never took off. She wore her earrings. They were permanent things to her. When she would have surgery, she would make them tape them down. She refused to take them off. In the police report that I have here, all her jewelry is accounted for. That there's something not right with that. And I know there's something not right with that. She would not take her jewelry off. She would not take her wedding bands off. That's one thing that I do want to get out there and stress. That's not my mom. My mom's jewelry shouldn't be accounted for. Second of all, the dementia thing, she did not have dementia, period. It's been proven by more than one doctor. She could not walk, and she did not walk out of the house with a gun. She did not. And if you Google my mom's name, some of those stories come up, and they're all false. They all came from parents, and they're wrong. I sent a flyer out to 400 people around his neighbors, all his neighbors within 3 miles of his house. I sent a flyer out with all her information and all his stories. I broke them down, and his false story and the truth. I want people to understand that they're not true. Those flyers went out to every individual neighbor within 3 miles of his house. I can't stress that enough. When you Google her name, those stories come up, and they're not true.
Okay.
I can't stress it enough, Kelly, because a lot of people didn't want to help look for her at first because they were seeing these stories. And I think that was part of the game. Well, if she's walking around with a gun, or she's trying to kill herself, or she has dementia, people aren't going to want to approach it. People aren't going to want to look for somebody that's got dementia. They're not going to want to look for somebody that has a gun. Think about it. If you put false stories out there, people are not going to want to look for you because they're going to be afraid you're going to shoot them. They're going to be afraid you're nuts or you're crazy or you got dementia. You know, if she's just going to walk away with a gun, then why look for her? And that's what hurt the case a lot in the beginning, because people didn't want to look because they were believing these stories that Terry was putting out there. So there was a lot of time that was wasted because of these stories about my mom. And it hindered, you know, finding her.
What do you think needs to be done to get answers for your mom?
What I think needs to be done is I think they need to quit tiptoeing around Terrence and bring him in and give him, you know, make him do the lie detector. They need to bring him in and, you know, do more than just have a talk with him. You know, a little bit of pressure here, you know, and I keep being told, well, without a body, we can't prove anything. I'm sorry, but I kind of disagree with that. There's ways of getting people to slip up or say something, or, you know, if you make a friendly visit out there every couple of weeks, of course he's not going to say anything. But bring him in, make him come in, you know, do something. He's living his life like my mom never even existed. Where's the fairness in that? We're all suffering. Mainly, you know, we're suffering without her. And I'm suffering every day, every minute of my life. I suffer. Not knowing where my mom is, not being able to talk to her, hug her, see her, anything like that, while he's going on like she never even existed. I don't see the fairness in this. Something needs to be done. And I'm doing everything I can to try to keep this case open and fresh in people's minds. I've done billboards. I've done newspapers. I've done TV interviews. I've done bracelets, private investigators. I've even done newspaper up here where I live. I podcast. I'm trying everything I can. It just seems like I'm the only one that's doing anything to try to get answers. And it's very frustrating, to say the least.
Tell me some of the things you are currently working on to help families with missing loved ones.
I have a Facebook page. It's Rosemary Rapp. She has her own page, and I have pictures that I shared with everybody on there. I welcome everybody to her page. The only thing that I ask is no negativity. Anything negative will be deleted from the page, and the person will be deleted from the page. It's only to share memories of her, pictures of her. If anybody wants to say anything, you know, prayers or light candles for her on there, that's what that's for. Just to go and so you can know her a little bit by all the pictures that she that I put on about her. You know, you can tell a lot about somebody by telling, you know, their pictures and different activities they did, and that's also a place for me to go when I'm missing my mom a lot. I'll go and put something on there about missing her, or I put poems on her, or songs, or whatever. So I welcome everybody to her page to come and enjoy seeing pictures of her and maybe get to know her a little bit through her page. I'm also I'm talking to some of our city council up here in Ashtabula, where I live, and I'm trying to see if I can start up like some kind of group, because just recently a young lady came up missing here in Ashtabula on July 9th. And there's no support up here. There's no support groups. There's no counseling for missing family members. And I really would like to start something to where I can help and I can be strength for that family right now, and just have someone to talk to when you need someone to lean on. So I'm going to, hopefully within the next few months or so, get with my city council here and try to see if I can figure something out.
Do you have any advice for families with a missing loved one?
My advice, too, is to reach out to others. Reach out to other people that have missing families. We're all part of a group that we really don't want to be part of, but we are part of that group. I'm here for anybody that wants to reach out to me that has missing family. I know what you're feeling. I know that it's hard. I know that sometimes you feel like it's drawn every bit of strength out of you, but you have people. I'm here for anybody. It doesn't matter if it's 30 years ago you have a missing family member or yesterday you have a missing family member. We have to pull together and we have to be strong for each other. And like I said, we're part of this group we really don't want to be a part of, but we are part of this group, and we have to make, when someone else is feeling down because they're missing their family member, we have to be there for them. We have to show them that strength that they don't have at that time. I've go days, just recently I had a day where all I did was cry all day because my daughter decided to bring out photo albums, and I found a bunch of pictures of my mom, and it brings you down, but you have that moment of weakness where, you just miss her talking to you, or you miss her hug, or you miss seeing her blue eyes, or you miss anything about them at all, or just seeing a picture makes you sad. I'm here for them. Anytime they need anything from me, I will be their strength for them. And I'm sure someday I'll have to lean on them and they'll have to be my strength. So that's the main thing, is just to reach out. You might feel alone, but reaching out to other people that's going through it will help more than what you realize.
If by some chance your mom is out there listening right now, what would you like to say to her?
First of all, I would tell her that I love her and I miss her dearly. Second of all, I would tell her that she could call me. She could call me and I'll come pick you up. No questions asked. Just to have her home would be all I need. I'm here. I'm right here, and I want you home, and I miss you horribly, no matter what.
If your mom was a victim of foul play, what would you like to say to the person responsible?
I would say that you will never forget what you did. From the day you get arrested to the day you're put behind bars permanently, you will see my face. You will know what you did. You will know the pain, and you will not forget. I will be sitting there from day one to day end, and I will not let you forget what you did. I can't let you forget. And he will pay.
I would like to thank Stacy for speaking with me and telling Rosemary's story. Here is a summary of what I learned through my investigation and what we heard tonight. Things aren't always as they appear, as we have learned with Rosemary. On the outside, it seemed her and Terrence had a good marriage, when in fact it was an abusive relationship. Not only is Terry the last person to see Rosemary, but he also has a carousel of stories, some which are absolutely ridiculous. Rosemary could not physically walk away. She did not have dementia, and it is not possible for her to leave with someone that had passed away several years before she went missing. In my opinion, a man with so many stories has something to hide. Stacy and her family have done everything in their power to find Rosemary. There is someone out there that knows something, and they need to come forward to help bring answers for Rosemary and her family. Tomorrow is Rosemary's birthday. Stacy and I would like to ask everyone to share Rosemary's picture as a birthday gift to her. You can find pictures on the Rosemary Rapp and Missing in Ohio Facebook pages. Rosemary Rapp is a white female, approximately 190 pounds and 5 foot 5 inches tall. Rosemary has brown hair and blue eyes. If you have any information on the disappearance of Rosemary Rapp, please call the Carroll County Sheriff's Department at 330-627-2141.
Hi, this is Lori from Missing Person from Ohio. I wanted to take a couple minutes and share a couple updates of what's happening on the Facebook page. The first thing is that we are hosting the Randy Schaefer Missing Person Awareness Campaign. What that is it's to honor Randy. The 10-year mark from his death is coming up September the 14th. So we wanted to do something positive to remember Randy and all that he did to keep Brian Schaefer's name out in the public. So what we have come up with is we are going to do the awareness campaign that will run until September 14th at 9 p.m. And we are asking anyone that has a missing person case that they're aware of, if they're a family member, if it's someone from their community, if it's a case that has not received a lot of attention, we are asking that they add their name to the comments on the Facebook post about this campaign. It's pinned at the top of the page, so it should be really easy to find. And we are going to randomly draw one of those names, and the family of that missing person whose name is drawn will receive a package of goodies that will help them keep their missing person's name out in the public's eye. That package will include items such as 250 bracelets, 250 business cards, a spot on the Missing in Ohio podcast, and also a 1-hour call with me where we can brainstorm some ideas to help that missing family continue to draw awareness about their missing person case. Now, we started thinking, what if we don't have contact with the family of the missing who is drawn? And we decided that if that happens, I will personally distribute items throughout that person's town where the person went missing, such as these business cards, and I'll send them, or I'll take them to the police department, the sheriff's department, the mayor's office, the library, the hospitals, different places there, just to keep that person's name out there. And that's only if we're unable to contact the family. So again, that ends on September the 14th. If you have a missing person case that you would like to have included, just add a comment to the original post that's pinned at the top of the Missing Person from Ohio Facebook page. I also wanted to give a couple shout outs. We had an interesting week with the missing. Jacob Caldwell, he was 14 years old at the time that he disappeared, from the Sugar Creek area. His father, Robert Caldwell, had been murdered, and Jacob had witnessed the murder. I'm sure I cannot even imagine how traumatic that was for this boy. And unfortunately, Jacob was missing for a year. He's been featured on Live PD. In the local area where he went missing, a billboard company even put up some billboards for him, and within days, Jacob was found, and he was found safe. Now, there has been some anger, I guess, about the fact that Jacob is being held in a juvenile detention center at this time. I just saw some updated articles today indicating that they are working to figure out where to place Jacob, that he is not a normal runaway. There is a list of 8 people I heard that he has been ordered to have no contact with, and it's all family members, and they believe that they were behind helping hide him. Again, this is all just news articles that I'm reading, but I wanted to at least mention Jacob's case because it was one that really tugged at a lot of our hearts, and it really, really was hard to realize that not only had this boy witnessed his father's murder, but we weren't sure if he was alive or dead or, safe. So when he was found safe, that was amazing in my opinion. The last case that I wanted to talk about, it's a case that has not received a lot of publicity. I was only aware of it back in May. It was added to NamUs. Her name is Josie Meadows. She's 18 years old. She is missing from Huntsville, Ohio, which is a rural area. And her description is she's 5'5", she's approximately 145 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. She was listed again on NamUs in May of 2018, but she actually disappeared a full year and a couple months before that. Her missing date is March 2nd, 2017. She may be in need of medication as well, so Josie's case is just one of those that it bugs me. Where is this 18-year-old girl, and what can we do to help bring her home? Now, on a positive note, her post on the page received over 100,000 views, and that's amazing. And whenever we can get a post to do that, we're pretty excited about that, and we're thankful for all the eyes that got to see the post. So thank you for allowing me to do this short little update, and give you some information of what's happening that we're seeing in the missing world. And there's a lot more, but we just don't have enough time to go over all of it. So each week I'll be trying to do this and just keep you involved in what's happening. Thanks so much.
If you have a missing loved one and would like us to help tell their story, please contact us in one of the many methods listed in the show notes. Missing in Ohio can be found on Podbean, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, and many of the other platforms you enjoy. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can email us at missingpersonsinohio@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to Missing in Ohio, Chapter 2, The Disappearance of Rosemary Rapp. Tune in next time for Chapter 3, The Disappearance of Megan Lancaster.